hunting,
fishing,
cooking,
camping,
conservation,
travel,
gardening,
photography,
family.
This is the Outdoor Ruhls podcast. Welcome to episode number 1 of the Outdoor Ruhls podcast. I am Mike Ruhl, and that is Outdoor Ruhls spelled R-U-H-L, which is our family name, our last name. And I am joined today by my 2 brothers.
I'm Matt Ruhl.
and I'm Mark Ruhl.
And today we're gonna just spend a little bit of time talking about who we are and what we're doing here, why we decided to get together and start this podcast, what we're hoping to get out of it, and why we hope you'll follow along with us on this little adventure. So I guess to begin with, where are we right now?
Lebanon, Pennsylvania, which would be considered South Central PA.
Right. We are in South Central Pennsylvania. We're actually, Matt, where are we? Specifically.
North Cornwall Township.
That's very specific. We're in North Cornwall Township. We're in Matt's kitchen.
That's where we are.
Right.
We're in a state of denial.
We exist in a state of denial. And we actually, we're taking this opportunity. It came up a little bit unexpectedly, but a happy occasion, actually. Mark and Matt live here in Southeast Pennsylvania or South Central Pennsylvania. And I actually live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we'll get into why that is. But I was able to come into town here a little bit unexpectedly because our sister, our only sister, is having a baby. And in fact, had the baby a couple of days ago, got home from the hospital today. So it's a joyous time for the Ruhl family. And I feel like the perfect time to record one of these podcast episodes. That's pretty much the story of the immediate family. There are 4 of us siblings, 3 brothers, and our sister. Both of our parents, luckily, are still with us, and they're actually both going to be part of what we do. Pretty much everybody in the family at some point will be part of this. And you know, we are a family that does a lot of things in the outdoors. And hunting and fishing are part of that, but there are lots of other elements, lots of other outdoor pursuits that we're into, from cooking to travel to photography, and through the course of this podcast, you know, we're going to get around to all of that stuff. But what I'd like to do first is introduce ourselves just a little bit more detail. Mark, you're the youngest.
So, yeah, I'm 38 years old. I'm a couple years behind Mike and Matt. Kate was in the middle. So, I'm married to Rachel, who's a professional photographer, and a huntress in her own right. Very good hunter, very good fisher lady. And she was doing that before we even met. In fact, our passion for the outdoors is how we met. And we've been married 9 years. We have a little daughter, Coralie, but she goes by CJ. And she's in the 3rd grade now. But she has been going along hunting with me since she was about 4 years old. She started. And, Rachel and I always discussed, not really pushing CJ into it if she didn't want to do it. But I mean, she's always wanted to be right there with us. And the minute a deer came home, she was pulling hide, and she was, she had her Melissa and Doug wooden knives, and she was there cutting at the quarters as we processed deer meat. And her favorite thing to eat is a deer heart. So She very much is involved, and organically on her own, she's just fallen in love with it, the hunting, the fishing, and everything that we do.
Yeah, nice. That's I think it's going to be a common theme with a lot of the kids. I'll go next just because we'll go in order from youngest to oldest here. And I'm gonna a few times throughout this episode we'll try to say our names because we all do sound a little bit similar. So there's a little bit of potential for confusion on the part of the listener there. But this is Mike. I am 44, so about 6 years older than Mark. And as I mentioned earlier, I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm actually a conservation professional. I've worked for various government organizations for the last 20 years, or maybe a little bit more than that now. Mostly doing fisheries biology type work, inland fish biology stuff. I worked in Yellowstone for a bit and am in New Mexico, been there for more than a decade now. I have two young sons, Robert and Emmett, who are 6 and 3. And I'm married to a really wonderful woman who is also in the conservation profession, which has been fantastic. She does wildlife habitat kind of work. And when we met, she was already very much into fishing, but she didn't do any hunting, and she took to that very, very quickly, and has over the last 15 years really become quite an accomplished Western big game hunter. Matt?
I'm Matt. I'm 46. I have 4 kids, ages 24, 20, 17, and 15.
Matt got started a little bit earlier than the rest of us.
Yeah, quite a bit.
He's the oldest, but he got a pretty good head start.
That's right. And the oldest 2 are boys, and the youngest 2 are girls. All 4 of my kids fish, but only 2 of them hunt. And all of them are pretty passionate about fishing. And then the 2 that are very passionate about hunting also.
Yeah, so mixed in this week at home for me has really been great because it's the middle of October, getting closer to the end of October, I guess, and the archery season is going on here, and we've really had a couple of days where early mornings and late afternoons we've been able to get out in the woods a little bit and do some archery deer hunting. We had a close call actually, right, Mark?
Yeah. CJ got on one on Saturday night, but just didn't work out. But she wants to keep cracking after it, so we have been.
Yeah, and Matt and I sat together in a tree stand on Saturday evening, and probably about 45 minutes after we were up, we had a small 6-point come by, and I probably should have taken that opportunity. I haven't killed a deer in Pennsylvania in about a decade now, I think, and I was kind of optimistic about getting one, but as it often happens, that turned out to be the only opportunity in the hunting I did. But I had a really great couple of days here. All of us and Mark's wife Rachel and CJ hunted, and Matt's daughter Kaylee and I got to do a couple of sits together, and just a lot of fun, a lot of laughing, really a great time, and I'm looking forward to the next opportunity to do that. So we're really different people. I mean, we share this common bond in blood, obviously as brothers, but professionally, I talked about what I do, but you guys ought to kind of mention this difference. I do government work.
I went to school for turf grass and ag equipment management. Took me a couple different places over state working on golf courses, which was nice. Got to hunt a couple different places. Then spent a couple years in New Jersey, where Matt and I spent quite a bit of time hunting together. Some great opportunities there. And then came back to Lancaster County, which is the county due south of Lebanon, working as a service manager in an equipment shop. So I've been there for going on 12 years now. So
Right. So you're kind of more in a service industry,
blue collar work. Yeah.
yeah, kind of role.
And I'm in the flooring industry. I had 10 years working through flooring stores, and then I started my own business. I've been self-employed since 2006. It's just a small business. It's essentially me and one other person. I have one employee, and which is great because I get to set my own schedule, which affords me a lot of time to hunt and fish. Typically, I don't work in November because I hunt every day.
Right. Which, I have all these amazing benefits of the kind of work that I do, but they're different than Matt's, and you miss out on a lot of things that I get, because generally when I'm hunting and fishing, or when I'm taking time off, I'm using leave and I'm still getting paid, but you gotta get ahead.
Yeah, I got a budget for that.
Right. Yeah, and by way of introduction, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about is that we do not come from money. I don't I don't really know how else to say that. But I think so much of what you see, particularly in the hunting world, but in the hunting and fishing world, are people having experiences where they're either, paying for hunts or on big tracts of private land, or, doing real adventure travel kind of stuff. And that's definitely not us. I like to think of the way we were raised and the way that this has continued for us as being funded by passion more than by dollars. And Matt, why don't you just kind of give us a little bit of history of deer hunting, of our family's deer hunting from that perspective.
Well, in Pennsylvania, you can't start till you're 12. So when I turned 12 was the first time I hunted at all. And even for the first 4 years that I hunted, I didn't go to what we call deer camp until I was 16. So I actually didn't shoot a deer until I was 18. Deer camp consists of it's northern Pennsylvania, and we'll probably touch base on this a lot because it's a lot of our history of hunting. But the first time I got to go there, I was so excited about it, and it wasn't even necessarily for the hunting; it was just for the atmosphere of all the guys that go. And we still carry that today, that tradition on today. The hunting up there is much tougher than it is where we live, but we still go every year. Whether we shoot a deer or not becomes secondary, essentially. Also, growing up, our father did an archery hunt. So we really only deer hunted a couple of days a year. So we did a lot of other hunting, small game. In high school, we got into waterfowl hunting once we could drive. And it's, that's just where we got our start.
Yeah. Mark, talk a little bit about deer camp. Just sort of physically what it is and where it is and why that's a thing.
Well, so it's kind of plays into your point. It's a 12-member camp, and it has always been a membership camp from its inception. So the cabin itself was taken over in the 40s, late 40s.
It was built in the 40s.
It was built in the 40s by some of our, what we would call uncles. They're technically our father's uncle. So they'd be our great uncles, but we always called them the uncles. They worked at the mine here in Cornwall, at the iron ore mine in Cornwall. And a bunch of guys from there purchased this cabin, started this camp. And so it went a couple of generations. Our father became a member. Then Matt and I became members. Mike was a member briefly, but it didn't really make sense for you to hold your membership living in Montana at the time. So it's a membership camp. There's probably 60% of the people in the camp were related to, and the other 40% were not. So it's a real small, it's a shanty. I mean, we do have indoor plumbing, which some camps up there don't, but we do. But what is awesome about it is it's situated on just a vast tract of public land in northern Pennsylvania. And so it gave us a lot of opportunities once we did start archery hunting, especially to go up there and explore and find, what we hoped were hidden gems in places where people weren't willing to walk at that time.
Right. So what you're talking about is, like you said, it's a physical camp. It's a building. We call it the shanty, that was built in the 40s. And Mark mentioned the Cornwall iron mine, this area, and we'll talk about this in future podcasts. But, this area outside of dairy farming, because we're close to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and dairy farming became a big thing around the Hershey factory. There was a really big, I think at the time it may have been the largest open pit mine in the world, an iron mine. And because the iron mine was there and there's coal close by, then there was a Bethlehem steel plant in Lebanon. And so that was kind of the main focus of the industry. And Mark mentioned our uncles, who are great uncles. The oldest of them was the head of above ground maintenance for the mine, and that was kind of a big job. It commanded a lot of respect. He had a lot of folks that worked for him. We always kind of joke that Bethlehem Steel and the open pit mine built our camp, but they didn't really know it. They supplied a lot of the materials, but not intentionally. But the camp's been there, for whatever, 75 years now. And I would not say it has been renovated. It's got indoor plumbing and it's got electricity, but outside of doing what it takes to keep the water out and the cabin standing, there has not been a ton of renovation.
No, they did put an addition on it I don't know if that was the late 50s, but yeah. I mean, we essentially do the maintenance to keep it up, but there's not been a full renovation.
Right. So it's as Mark mentioned, 12 members, and then it really in the peak of things, when there were lots of guys going to camp for the first day of rifle deer season, it would be 25 guys, kind of stacked on top of each other. And
most of the sleeping situation is double bed bunks, so you would be shacked up.
You'd sleep two to a bunk.
Two guys sleeping in separate sleeping bags, obviously. Two to a bunk, and there'd be four guys in one bunk bed.
Right.
So
it was tight.
You ate in shifts.
Yep.
You didn't want to be the dishwasher on spaghetti night.
Right. and then we also used, we call it deer camp, but we also used it obviously for other hunting seasons.
And summer vacations.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time up there just as a family. In the summertime, you could reserve the cabin, and we would often go up for 2 weeks.
We go for 2 weeks in June almost every year.
Yep. And Mark alluded to it, but Matt, just talk about the ground, because there's a little piece of private land that camp is on, but the hunting itself there.
The hunting is mostly public land. We're all public land. And it's mountain terrain. Some of it's steep. It's work. It's not easy. And, the deer numbers seem to go up and down in cycles. Some years, you go through cycles where there's lots of deer, and then you go through cycles where there's no deer. And you just, you got to put in the work up there if you're going to shoot a deer.
And it's on Susquehannock State Forest is mostly what we're hunting, which is all, in active timber management. And so they are constantly cutting there, which means that, you're often hunting edges of clear cuts and those kind of places. And
sometimes they also clear cut the areas that you really like. You have a spot that you've hunted for 10 years and you go there the next season and it's clear cut and you're starting over.
Right. Exactly. You can have a dynamite spot where you kill a nice buck 3 years in a row and then something changes. And sometimes, like Matt's saying, that's a new harvest, or it can just be that, successional stage, what's coming back and what they were using in a clear cut, isn't there anymore, or there's some other better food source that's developed somewhere else and the deer have just moved on. So it's not the kind of place where you really can pick one spot and hunt it for 25 years and consistently kill deer. It's a real challenge.
And it's not really known for being a big acorn, a big oak tree forest. What's the number one thing deer eat up there? Browse.
Yeah.
And so, you're hunting deer that can basically eat anywhere. And it's tough. It is tough hunting.
There's no patterns. You can't hardly find patterns.
You mess up on a deer up there and you are likely not going to see that deer again.
Yeah. If you see a big buck there, you better kill it the first time you see it, because you're likely never going to see it again.
Right. And the reason or part of the reason why that place became popular, and when I say that place, I mean the northern tier of Pennsylvania as a deer hunting destination, is because there are those large tracts of public forest land, which we don't have nearly as much of here in South Central PA, right?
Right. Yeah.
There are a few spots here, but they really get hunted hard.
Yeah. Right. And even when we were kids, the deer populations, they were different then than they are now.
Yes.
So, in sort of most of the farm ground around here, which there is a lot of, there's not a lot of woods, and there weren't really a lot of deer here, but that has really changed.
Yeah, there's a lot of deer here now. And some of that's, I think, turned around because of Pennsylvania enforcing an antler restriction.
Right. So what Matt's talking about is that, oh gosh, it was 20 years ago now or more. I was just getting out of college, right?
Yeah, I was probably 14 when the antler restriction started. I think I hunted 2 years without him.
Yeah.
The first year I hunted, he killed a buck that would not have made that was your first buck.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think that deer would have made the antler restrictions.
No, it wouldn't have made the antler restrictions. It was a 3-pointer.
But in 1990 or 99, whenever that would have been, in Pennsylvania, nobody passed up a buck. You didn't pass up a buck.
No.
If you went back to camp and said, "Oh, I passed up a spike,
or a one-horn spike." There were years at camp where there'd be 25 guys in camp and they'd shoot 10 buck in the first morning of rifle season, and the biggest one might be a 4-pointer.
Right. Yeah, and there were also years where there were 25 guys at camp and you might get 2.
Yeah, nobody shoots a deer.
3 in the first in the first week. Very, so like Matt said, those deer populations went up and down quite a bit, or at least that's how it seemed to us. And you took the opportunities that you got. Matt, you said that, how old were you when you shot your
18?
You were 18 when you shot your first buck. I was 16 when I shot my first buck. Mark, you were probably younger.
I was younger. I would have been 13 or 14. I shot Spike.
Yeah.
13, I think.
Mark's a better deer hunter than Matt and I guess.
That is not true at all.
That was proven to you the time that he shot. How many shots at that buck?
That was a different year.
Yeah, there is a story there that we should get into at some point, but I don't know that we'll start telling deer hunting stories just yet. That's one I like to tell. There were a couple. We got in the double digits.
I was as good of a deer hunter as you were as a recorder, a hunt recorder that trip.
Oh yeah, well there was an issue with that. I did have a video camera on that and didn't hit the record button. Otherwise, there would be good documentary
That's
evidence.
The only good thing that came out of this for Mark.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, so again, that's the kind of deer hunting that we grew up with, hunting those big tracts of public land. That has shifted some now for you guys, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we have years. It's more common now for us to not shoot a buck. It's more common for us to shoot a buck than not shoot a buck at this point.
And we also tend to pass quite a few deer in a season, Mark and I.
Yeah.
And we've also been fortunate enough to have about 100 acres of private ground that we can hunt on here. We're fairly close to where we live. And that's really changed our deer hunting quite drastically.
Yeah. The hardest part of that is the neighbors. It's definitely not a quality deer management area for those folks and surrounding farms. So we do our best to manage our deer, but it's not.
It's about impossible.
It's about impossible.
Well, yeah, and it's not ours, like Matt's saying. So fortunate that we're able to hunt there. It's a very, very old family friend, or our families are friends.
They're actually distantly related to us.
Right, we are very distantly related, but
much closer than that.
Yeah, I mean, where you guys can often hunt it after work and kind of hunt all the time, and in having that, you've started to do a lot more archery hunting.
Yeah.
Sure. I killed my first archery deer there. It might have been the year the restrictions started, actually. And it was a 6-pointer, and I was happy as could be.
Right.
My archery hunting started when I was working in Pine Grove, and then really built up when I was in New Jersey. The deer hunting in New Jersey was kind of crazy.
Well, talk about that a little bit.
I worked on like I alluded to, I worked on a golf course. It was probably 160 acres, I think, something like that. And being in central New Jersey, just north of Princeton, nobody hunted there. So Matt and I kind of took it over as our own, and killed quite a few deer. When I started, you couldn't shoot a buck until you shot a doe. And then the following year, it was a doe a day you could kill. They just needed animals harvested.
To be clear, we didn't shoot a doe a day.
No, right. No. But many close calls with really big bucks.
Yeah, there were nice deer there.
But I think that this is kind of the theme or a theme here, which is the opportunity in New Jersey was sort of an opportunity of the moment that you guys recognized and took advantage of. It wasn't us leasing ground, buying our way into something. It was a place that you were working that allowed you to hunt within their rules. And, we did that.
Right. It wasn't.
Yeah. You had to hunt around the golfers. You definitely, hunted the back of the course in the mornings and the front of the course in the afternoon, so that you weren't interfering with golfers.
Yeah.
It was an active, working, busy golf course.
Yes, for sure. There were some patches where you could get out of the way where you wouldn't be noticed, but, leaving those patches, you felt naked.
Right.
I will say the one thing is the golfers and the deer both did not look up in New Jersey.
That's a good thing.
I mean, I literally had guys hitting wedges out of the weeds under my tree stand, like straight down. And then the deer would come 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the deer were not bothered by the golfers, although they seemed to be.
Oh, if you wore camouflage, you couldn't get close to them.
It really was though. I mean, you would go. I remember years where I would go from, driving around on the golf course on, the day before Thanksgiving, coming home for Thanksgiving, and then going right to deer camp because our opener was always the Monday after Thanksgiving, and being like, "What am I doing in Potter County right now?" Like I hunted for a day and a half and didn't see a deer. I could go back down to the golf course and drive around and see 3 8-pointers.
Right. But that theme of taking those opportunities Matt mentioned earlier about us waterfowl hunting in high school, and that was something that our dad and our grandpa, who was a hunting mentor to us, his dad didn't do at all.
No, we took on waterfowl hunting like completely brand new, no idea what we're doing,
and took it on. I think for 2 reasons. We had each of Matt and I in the beginning had some friends in high school who well, Matt had a friend who did a little bit of waterfowl hunting.
He did a little bit of waterfowl,
and then my really close friend from high school, who I'm still close with, he was a farmer, and he had land, and particularly at that time, there didn't seem like there were all that many guys waterfowl hunting here, and so both the ground that his family owned and farmed, and then he's seemingly related to almost everybody else in a 3-county area. So that opened up, a lot of opportunities for us. But I think really it was that we were hunters in search of something to hunt for, more than we were people that were like, well, we really want to learn to goose hunt. It wasn't necessarily the geese. It was just that we wanted to be hunting, and geese were an opportunity that we recognized and took advantage of.
We became fairly good at it too.
Some days it sure seemed that way.
There were a lot of days when we started out, especially, where we didn't have blinds. We barely had decoys. We'd be laying face down in the mud in the cut cornfield, thinking, why the heck am I out here? Raining on us. And then the geese would come in.
Yeah.
It's always been interesting to me that from the time you would have graduated college, Mike, to the time I would have graduated college, how much the waterfowling had changed. In that, when I was younger and hunting with you guys all the time, when I came of hunting age at 12 back then, before Mentored Youth started it, we could go anywhere and ask for permission
to waterfowl
hunt.
Nobody waterfowl hunted.
Or if they did, it was really rare. You didn't run into people with trailers and rigs, and you didn't run into this guy's leasing this ground and this guy's leasing this ground.
Yes.
And I think back to all those great memories we had, hunting geese and just, running around carrying decoys and the whole production of it. And I think today how hard it would have been to get into that, because that has become so competitive.
Yeah, it's a lease ground game here now.
It's a lease ground game here. And I'm sure in other parts of the country it was back then too, but it just had not reached this area. And now you constantly hear of my friends who I still know who waterfowl hunt the area, guys cutting in on other people's leases, guys going in and hunting, getting permission on birds because they see the birds there, and then undercutting somebody who's been hunting that field for 25 years. And it's just so competitive. And there's just no It's just so hard. It would be just so much harder to get into.
Yes, it would be about impossible
And-
now to
and-
start out.
I mean, not only get into, but you guys have faded out of it.
Correct. And
I faded out of it partially because of the competition. It's just not worth fighting with somebody over a goose.
Well, fighting them or spending a bunch of money.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
And you know, again, that to me is emblematic of who we are as a hunting family, in that, you know, we look for these opportunities to do things, and we, you know, we want to be outdoors, and we're talking about hunting right now, but I mean, fishing is the same way. You know, fishing is a little more public and a little more open in most cases, but that's probably also why, you know, we spend a lot of time fishing.
If you had to pick one, which would you pick?
If I had to pick hunting or fishing,
And you could only do one.
oh shoot. I have a good answer for if I could only do one kind of hunting, but I'd pick fishing, I guess.
So would I.
Mark?
I don't freshwater fish as much as he does. I mean, if we're talking saltwater fishing, but we live so far from it, it's hard to do. But
You think you live far from it?
but there's a reason I bought. You know, we got the 23-foot center console to go down to the bay. That's going to be my choice if I'm going to do one thing.
But you'd pick fishing too.
I'd pick fishing
Which is
too.
funny because we've talked about hunting this entire podcast, and now all three of us are saying we pick fishing.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I will say that, you know, going on a run, you know, it went from a time where I thought I'd never shoot a deer with a bow, or thinking that was my Mount Everest, to, you know, not humble bragging, but like shooting 7 out of 8 years shooting bucks. Now it's more so like getting CJ her first buck is, and once that happens, that might be what my answer would be tomorrow or the next day after that happens. But right now, yeah, I would have to go with saltwater fishing as my favorite thing to do.
yeah.
And some of that is, you know, the memories we've built saltwater fishing. It's you know, one of my favorite things to do with my brothers. So
Yeah, and again, it's hard for me to give our folks enough credit, I think, for some of the things they did for us. We talked about, I mean, we've talked about Dad and our grandpa taking us hunting, and we talked about, you know, them taking us up to deer camp in the summer, but they also took us to saltwater fish. They took us to the Delaware Bay,
The Outer Banks of North Carolina.
right,
Florida.
a little bit in Florida, the Chesapeake Bay. So, you know, they kind of ran us all over the place. We spent some amount of time saltwater fishing every year.
Yes.
Often, you know, we'd come back from a trip up north or to the beach, and you know, the conversation on the ride home would be to Dad, well, why you love doing this so much, why haven't you moved? Well, his answer was always, I'm 4 hours from my cabin. I love hunting in Potter County, and you know, I can be to some saltwater in 2.5, 3 hours, and to where I really want to fish in 6. You know, it's kind of perfect where I'm at, located wise, as far as that goes. So,
Right, but you know, that whole game, the saltwater fishing, was also sort of a learn as you go kind of thing. I mean, Dad always did it that way, and again, something I give him a lot of credit for, that you know, we almost never hired a guide. I mean, between you guys, how many days do you think you've fished in your life?
oh,
Thousands and thousands.
Yeah.
And how many of those days have been with a guide?
3.
yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
I forgot about Marty.
Oh, we got to tell the story of Marty at some point.
So maybe
A
5.
Canadian fishing guide, but
I think I was on a guide boat in Alaska once in Maine and twice in the Outer Banks. I think that's been it. And one of those was an offshore trip to the Outer Banks. So
I think the
a
same.
handful of times.
I
not
think the
often.
same guided thing goes with hunting. I've been fortunate enough to hunt in a half a dozen states. It might be more than that. I've never gone guided on a hunt ever. It's always been do it ourselves. and we've always managed to be fairly fortunate to kill a deer, an elk, whatever we were after.
Yeah,
That's not to say every time I went. I came home with tags plenty of times, but I've also come home with game plenty of times too.
right. And we have all kind of evolved into different elements of this. Different elements of outdoor pursuits. Mark, you mentioned saltwater fishing, and I think you're have the most expertise there. What else in the outdoor world do you think, would you say that you sort of focus on or specialize in?
I mean, yeah, archery hunting, which we talked enough about. Saltwater fishing is my favorite thing to do. I said, when the weather turns cold, if we get ice, we're out ice fishing every minute we have a chance to here. It's been tough, but CJ, my 8-year-old, is just, I mean, that kid's the first on the ice and the last off every time. If we start at 6 and we're leaving at 6 and it's dark, she's complaining that we're leaving. I've dabbled in a lot of things I enjoy doing. I don't do them as much as I like or as much as I once did, but, a little bit of trapping, predator hunting, upland bird hunting, all those things I really enjoy doing, just being outside. And as CJ's coming to age, she loves going on pheasant walks with us. I say walks because it's pretty much usually around here. If you're not on the stocked birds immediately, it's what it is. It's a walk, but we enjoy it. So yeah, those are kind of things that we get to, hiking and biking and, Matt's less so on the
Had a
bike.
nice bike accident this summer.
Talking about it, with my brothers, going to the cabin, just being outdoors.
I do think one of the elements of the cabin we didn't talk about is there is world-class trout fishing up there.
Yeah.
And a lot of native trout fishing.
Right, wild brown trout and native brook trout there, in addition to lots of fish stocked by the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. And Matt, you've definitely got one area of expertise absolutely locked up from the rest of us, which is
bass fishing. I assume you're talking about.
I am.
Yeah, I try to bass fish as much as I can when work, kids, soccer, life doesn't get in the way. Actually, this fall, fished in 2 small tournaments, and they were very small for the first time tournament fishing, and found that I really enjoy that, and probably something I'm going to pursue much more in the coming years.
And you do more deer hunting than the rest of us. I mean,
I think I only deer hunt more than Mark because of my ability to essentially quit working whenever I want.
Yeah.
Being self-employed, I often start really early on projects when I can and then quit, to give myself the last 3 hours of the day in a tree. So there's a lot of years, if our archery season here is 40 days, I might be in a tree stand in the evenings, 35 of them.
Right.
And I will typically hammer every single day of the season up until the time change, because I can get the last hour and a half in from work, driving home from work. And then once the time change happens, he just eclipses me in time in field.
Right. One thing that Matt will not do is turkey hunt.
Ice fish?
We can't figure out why, but he will not ice fish.
When I cast them lures on the ice, they just skip across the top.
Now, the few times I've had him ice fishing, he's out fished me.
Yeah,
which is frustrating.
Generally speaking, any pursuit that involves fishing, you're probably going to get outfished by Matt. He's the best fisherman among us without any question.
Same tackle, same.
Yeah, no, you can stand right next to him and do the same.
He'll give you the
thing.
first cast to the spot. He'll say, "Cast her right there." You cast her right there. Give him nothing. He makes the next cast and he has a fish.
It's annoying.
So annoying.
But it doesn't annoy me at all.
What else, man? I mean, yeah, bass fishing and deer hunting, because you do more than just archery hunt too. I mean, you kind of usually continue through the rifle season.
Yeah, I'll hunt every day a rifle, not every morning, but typically every afternoon. And then probably my favorite thing to hunt with, although I'm terrible at shooting it, is the flintlock muzzleloader. And there are a lot of good flintlock muzzleloader hunting stories.
Yeah, flintlock muzzleloaders, if you're not familiar with this, is the sort of the oldest traditional kind of muzzleloader that's still commonly available, and it's a really challenging and less than reliable uh, firearm to hunt deer with, but it is in Pennsylvania, we all came into flintlock muzzleloader hunting because Pennsylvania has a special flintlock only muzzleloader hunting season. I think it's
typically 2.5 to 3 weeks long. Right, it starts after Christmas.
Right.
I often like to call it catch and release hunting.
Yeah,
because I shoot at a lot of deer, but I don't hit a lot of deer.
Right, real challenging thing.
It was always a really weird, from looking at it like from a management standpoint, because they took your buck tag in flintlock muzzleloader season and it became a doe tag.
Came in any deer tag.
Any deer tag. Well, the point antler restrictions still counted, right? I believe.
Yes. Before antler restrictions, it was literally in any deer tag.
So
now the point, you're right, with the antler restrictions, now there's a certain group of bucks you can't kill.
So if you didn't kill a buck in rifle season, then it gave you an opportunity to go shoot a doe on that tag. And so we would get quite a few guys up at the cabin in muzzleloader season and do a lot of deer drives that typically ended up with lots of shooting and no deer.
Right. It was sort of like, the any deer thing I felt like was just teasing you. It was just designed to prove to you that you weren't good enough with a flintlock to get a deer, regardless of what kind of deer it was. You can shoot any deer. Good luck.
I think a good example of that is I missed 3 deer in one drive with a flintlock muzzleloader that takes probably at least a minute or two to reload.
Right.
In one drive.
And again, here for clarity, because everybody's not probably up on all the terminology, but a deer drive is not driving around in a car shooting a deer. That is not legal in Pennsylvania in any way, shape, or form. We're talking about where you walk through the woods to try to move deer, usually out of bedding areas, and get them to run to other people that are waiting for them.
Herding deer is what they call it in the South.
They
right,
do
Michael?
call it. Yeah, I've heard that term once. There's another story buried in herding deer. But yeah, so it's a technique, a perfectly legal technique to hunt deer in Pennsylvania. And then I went to college here in Pennsylvania, and then moved out west. I lived in Montana. I worked in Yellowstone National Park for about a decade before I moved to New Mexico. But so I've been in the West for 20 years or a little more, and obviously taken to Western big game hunting. And then I also do more wing shooting than either of you guys. Now
that's an opportunity thing. We just don't have those birds here anymore to hunt.
Right. In Montana, it was pheasants and Hungarian partridges. And then in New Mexico, there's 4 species of quail to chase and really good dove hunting. And then I still try to travel to hunt with friends around the West for pheasants and chukars and other things when I can. But we're talking earlier about the one thing I would do if you whittled my hunting down to one pursuit, it would be pheasants. I enjoy hunting them more than anything else. And, I had pheasant dogs and done the whole thing for a while now, although that's been fading. My boys are little, and it's much harder to put the time into keeping dogs trained and getting to the places where there are birds. So anyway, what else you guys want to talk about today? I think it's just worth, really talking about the family element of this. And we kind of mentioned it, but when we were talking about the archery hunting that we did this week, if you listen to that closely, our dad was also out with us, but on most of the sits, we're actually sitting together. Matt and I both have licenses. We could be sitting in different places, but we sit together.
With him being out where he lives and us here, you don't get the opportunity. I'd rather spend the time in the stand with my brother than by myself. I can do that anytime I want.
Right. And I think that for all of us, I know especially for me, if you took all the other people out of it, you guys and dad and our kids, and our friends, I don't really know that I would hunt. It's for me, it's about the camaraderie and being together, um, more certainly than it is about harvesting animals.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting in Matt's living room now, and Matt's been a very successful hunter. I would almost say, especially with deer, more than Michael and I have been. He's got quite a few beautiful mounts sitting around here from many different states. Are any of those deer, were you alone, that are mounted over here?
I was never, I mean, I may have been sitting alone, but they were trips where one of you guys was with along.
And that's, I have one deer where, I shot a nice buck. It had a drop tine and I was by myself, but my favorite deer I ever killed was with my dad. And that's just always been, kind of what came natural to me. Now, of course I was, 12 and you guys were in your late teens and heading off to college and starting a family. So that time I spent with you guys was, special to me. So that's why, I really cherish these times when we're together.
So, one element that we didn't touch on that is really important. What we do is the wild game cooking side of this and the outdoor cooking parts of it. And Matt, you certainly eat a lot of deer meat.
I eat a lot of everything.
You didn't. I was a little disappointed at the beginning of this. You didn't introduce yourself in the way that I thought you would.
Oh, well, I could do that now. And you can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Matt, and I'm the. I don't remember what I said the other day.
The short, fat, good looking.
Oh yeah, I'm Matt, and I'm the short, fat, good looking one.
Yeah, but you do eat a lot of deer meat.
Yes. I rarely buy red meat.
Right. And Mark and I think we both have spent a lot of time messing around with various food preparation or around wild game. Mark, you're a little bit more of the outdoor cooking with that contraption that you have. What is that thing?
Yeah, the birch barrel. Yeah, it's a cook camp stove on a tripod. But you can charcoal smoke or you can wood smoke with it. And yeah, it's really cool. Actually, Matt makes awesome steaks on it every year when we go to deer camp for our family trip.
And then I spend a lot of time, and particularly lately, I've spent a lot of time messing around with developing more traditional preparations using wild game and all kinds of stuff. Especially, I seem to be cooking in cast iron all the time now, doing lots of preparations that start on the stove and end up in the oven. And we'll be, as we go along, part of Outdoor Ruhls, we have a presence on social media. We've all got roles that we're playing, messing around with this. Mark, we're calling you the digital media manager, right? What's our Insta?
Well, our Insta would be at Outdoor Ruhls. So, and then from there, you'll be able to follow along each of our own accounts.
And you'll also find the link to the website there, which is www.outdoorruhls.com. And again, that's RUHLS rules. Matt, we describe Matt as our CFO, our chief flooring officer.
I'll be here for all of your flooring needs.
We've also decided to make him the head of HR.
That's a mistake for everybody.
No, I did that to protect you.
The only way that HR won't fire Matt at some point is if Matt's the head of HR. So that's where that comes from. But no, we are kind of working pretty hard right now on a website. There'll be some writing up there. I've got a couple of gun related articles I'm going to publish there, and then some recipes, as well as it'll be a pathway to find all of these podcast episodes. But I think for now that kind of accomplished what we wanted to here. Talked a little bit about who we are and what we're about and what we hope to accomplish. And we're gonna tell a lot of family stories that I think are interesting from several angles. Some really interesting family history. There's some really interesting history of this area. We're gonna tell some hunting and fishing stories for sure. We're gonna talk about outdoor travel. Me and hopefully our dad have a big trip planned next summer. We're gonna take my older son and my father-in-law. We're all going to go to Norway and halibut fish, and we'll be doing some travel stuff around that. As Mark mentioned, his wife is a professional photographer, and hopefully we can get her on here to talk about all things outdoor photography. We'll definitely be covering some conservation topics. We have a broad group of friends in that business. And a lot of interesting things to cover there. So we really hope to build a community around this, but really at the core of this is family, and that's where this is going to largely focus. So we hope you'll join us on some of these adventures. You guys got anything to add?
I think just that you don't have to, if you're passionate about getting outside and you're passionate about doing these things, finding somebody to do them with is as important as, having 1 million acres and quality deer management and all these things. You can do it. And we've done it our whole lives, just kind of from what we could.
Yeah, we've done a lot of things from scratch, and I hope that if anything, we inspire people, and it doesn't, not just hunting and fishing, all manner of outdoor pursuits. We've kind of started from scratch and learned as we went. So
we're definitely not the best at them.
We're not the best at any of this. If you are listening to this hoping to find the absolute experts on any one topic, that's probably not going to be us.
We're not going to walk into a 400-inch bull. We're not going to teach you how to grow the crops to shoot a 200-inch whitetail, but hopefully we'll show you that that's not even necessarily what we find to be the important part of it. What it is doing it together as much as possible.
Doing it together. The best memories I have aren't the biggest deer I killed. They're the ones I shot with my brothers.
All right. I love you guys.
Love you too.